In this age of AI, do non-technical founders still need developers?
Absolutely, 100%. And I would even argue that now even more so than ever. There's a lot of talk going on about how, engineers are becoming obsolete because of all these amazing AI technologies. But anyone who actually has ever used this technology, so who knows how these tools work underneath, can quickly realize that developers are needed more than ever. And here's why. AI does not equal understanding. Basically, AI can generate code just like it can generate an article for LinkedIn or, any other media if you give it some information and you prompt it properly. However, it does not mean that AI, the tool that you're using, is actually going to understand what is it that you're building. So on the one hand, yes, you could probably prompt AI to build you a decently looking login page. It's not going to go on its own unless you tell it to make sure that it's secure, for instance, or to make sure to request certain, password parameters, or to make sure to know what to do with that login once you log in. And again, I'm using just very basic examples of features that, any platform has. But you can extrapolate and imagine that if you're building a somewhat complex platform that has some sort of logic about it, then you can't simply rely on AI. Because at the end of the day, building a platform is more so about the context, understanding consequences, edge cases, logic, than simply producing code. So AI is excellent at producing code. Some of that code can even be synthetically correct, but most of the time it would be architecturally wrong. And so you need to have an engineer, someone who actually understands the code and how platforms are being built in order to, oversee, correct, control, maintain, and guide the AI tool that you're using.
And so how long has JetRockets been around now? You guys have been around for quite a while, right?
16 years. Yeah.
Okay, wow, 16 years. So and you're working with a lot of non-technical founders and business leaders. So, really people who are probably listening to our show. And so I'm wondering, what changes have you seen in what people are coming to you with since the AI boom? Because I'm wondering, are people coming to you saying, oh, we've created this thing with AI and now we need you to help us scale? Or are they saying we built this thing with AI, but we don't really understand what it is? Like, how has the age of AI changed demand for your services?
I'd say all of the above, right? So I'm seeing positive changes as well as some sort of, regression, so to speak, in my found or in my target audience. So on the positive side is because of the tools that are now available, and I'm particularly referring to stuff like Lovable, for instance. Um, Founders have a very affordable, easy to use way to ideate and build proof of concept. Something that in the past, um, sometimes they would have to even come to me very early on in the and in the process and be like, hey, can you build us a proof of concept? And, inevitably they would have to spend significant amounts of money on a product that may or may not see the, light of day. Now, with the advancements in these particular technologies, they don't need to come to me. As a matter of fact, when they do, I advise them against it. I say, listen, you're at the stage that you should go and use Lovable. Build your own prototype. It doesn't have to be pretty. It doesn't have to, be fully functional, but it gives you enough of functionality to be able to play around with your vision. Because, pictures worth a thousand words, right? You may think you want something, but in reality, when you put it together, you realize that no, this is not quite what I'm looking for, etc. So it gives you a quick, easy, relatively cheap, just sometimes even free way of ideating and really honing in on what is it that you're building. So on the positive note, when these people come to me, they typically now come to me at a stage where they have proven their idea, they found the product market fit, even if, sort of the beginning stages of that. And we haven't wasted their budgets on that process. Now we can take their money and spend it on actually building out a scalable, proper solution that will allow them to conquer, their user base. On the sort of flip of that is many people who fall victim to a lot of these falsehoods you can read on LinkedIn or other media. Hey, you no longer need engineers. You can whip something out in 2 days. I guess the new term now is building AI native platforms. Well, it's just another hype word, in my opinion, right? And so they say, yeah, I don't need engineers. I can just go and vibe code something on my own. And the most dangerous are the types who have a little bit of technical skill, just enough to fool themselves into thinking that they now can be a, full sort of engineer using these technologies. And what happens is I've seen a case where a law firm, actually like a small legal firm, they decided to build a new onboarding flow for their clients, and they spent like 3 days. I was told over a weekend, and vibe coded an onboarding application for their clients where they would allow their clients to upload sensitive information.
What about your costs? Because obviously you have developers working for you, and are some of them using AI? And as a result, how has their work changed? And have your costs gone down? Have they become more productive? I'd love to understand what's happening, for the engineering side.
Yes. So this is a huge misconception, I think, right now in the industry that says that, oh, if a developer has mastered how to use AI, they should be paid less. Well, I would argue on the contrary, and I would say that if a developer has mastered to use a new tool to become more productive and more efficient, they should be paid more. Because you can get the same stuff done at a faster rate, supposedly, right? So why would it cost less? Right? I mean, imagine if you hire, going back to the analogy of building a house, if you're hiring somebody to lay your bricks manually versus maybe, there's a combination of some machinery and manual labor, right? You want the machinery to be used, and people who know how to use machinery are probably more valuable in the market, in the workplace. The same goes for engineers, right? And so where we can see, so first of all, yes, we absolutely embrace AI and we absolutely use it in our workday, right? My engineers, and by the way, at JetRockets, my engineers can decide which tools they prefer to use because every tools are slightly different and people have different opinions depending upon their skill level as well as their, preferences. Like some people just basic like human, personal preferences. But where we see AI being amazing assistant is with scaffolding, testing, refactoring, naming, like stuff that engineers don't want to do as it is.
But kind of like the admin of engineering. Like every job has its own documentation and admin, and most of us
just
don't like it.
Tedious, take a lot of quote unquote manual labor, and just like, where engineers were forced to do it by hand because there were no such tools. Now they can automate these processes. And then that is excellent. That saves, a good engineer, like a well-skilled engineer at JetRockets, if they embrace AI and they integrate AI in their daily operation, they can be, 30, sometimes even 40% more effective.